You're recording.
We're recording.
All right, time being 5 after 5 on Monday, February 10th, 2020, calling together a joint meeting of the TNFD Budget Committee and Board of Commissioners, discussing the warrant articles and some other business prior to the budget hearing to the public, which will commence subsequent to this meeting. In attendance is almost everybody except for Jane and Dennis. So where do we want to start?
Well, this is probably the easiest thing. I'm requesting an amendment to the approved number for the apparatus and equipment fund, and I'll pass out a memo to everybody. That one, this way, this way.
Is this a total or just for the fire engine?
Well, it's to a specific line item within the apparatus fire account, and so as everybody knows, we're doing a project, the communication facility up on Shed Road. It's the Class 6 section of Shed Road just past the school, and when we applied for our building permit, we got a building permit. We gave them the plans and everything for all that stuff, and then somehow in the last week or so, Andy said, well, you need a driveway permit. So we had to go through the paperwork for the driveway permit, and then with that, they gave us the permit, but with the permit is a requirement that we put in a 30-foot culvert at our driveway, and so I had to get some estimates. I got the cheapest ones from Hubbard, Mark Hubbard, up off Oak Hill Road, to do the job, and that's included there for $4,670, and it also includes some trench work for some underground utilities that we had to put in underground across the road to make the road compliant with what the town required. So this has to be done this spring at the latest, and so I didn't have this in the budget. It's outside of the scope of work of the current contract that we have. And so I'm requesting to add that to the apparatus equipment fund, to the line item that would cover this work.
Oh, it's free.
The pipe is free.
Let me ask you something.
Yes.
Why, it's a tower, right? Radio, communication tower.
Yes.
Why do you need a driveway?
Because we have to have access to it. It also has I probably should take some pictures.
I mean, once it's in there and set up, it's there.
It's there. It has a communication shelter, which holds the equipment that operate the antennas off of the tower, and you still have to maintain access to that shelter.
And so how often do we have to maintain it? Once a year, every 2 years, 3 years?
We'll probably go up there. I'll probably go up there once a month or so. But the driveway was required by the town of Northville because it's off the town road. And when Andy was up there, it says the runoff comes this way, you need to put a culvert in here, which starts here with riprap and stuff, and at the other end you have to have riprap and stuff. And so I took his, he did give us the driveway permit, but he also stated that with the permit you are required to put this culvert in.
And there's nothing the town would do to...
They're giving us the piece of pipe.
Yeah, but I was looking for a little bit more, I guess. Help us. But, okay.
I think there you run into issue of private. I know there was an issue at one time where they didn't plow, like this reason why the schools don't get plowed by the towns is because it's a private entity type thing.
Cool.
Well, something like that.
So then the town has to put culverts.
Yeah.
So the $5 grand more or less is excavation costs, install the culvert, build the driveway?
Yes.
Underground.
Well, the driveway is kind of built to the right of way, but it has to be brought to the street. Yep. And the utilities, the trench for the utilities that go underneath the road, the trench is put in, but they're requiring certain materials that aren't there, so we have to upgrade that trench so it
That
doesn't,
makes sense.
so when they do, if they do build a road there, it doesn't cave in and stuff like that, so these are all things that I understand and they just weren't foreseen and weren't in the scope of the contract when we signed the contract with construction. Excuse me?
The town requires it, we have to do it.
That's my understanding, yes.
How did you come with 4670?
Through this, what Andy required to be done, I took that and went to some contractors, local contractors, and three. And, Mr. Hubbard was. Yes.
So, how is it that this money can come from that account?
Because it's being used for, that whole project came out of this account, and when we called our accountant today, he said that's where this additional money, since it's going towards that project, he said that's the line item that should be attached. Because I was wondering, should it be an operating, should it be apparatus equipment fund, and so we called the accountants.
Tough one.
Yeah, I'm also not convinced that the right source. We approved 300-something thousand. Just part of that triangulation budget. 2 years ago,
Yeah, kind of.
300,000.
261.
This is part of that.
Yes,
And that was for the equipment.
and the installation and everything else that needed to be done in work. I mean, if you want to put it in the operating account, I'm fine with that too. It's just that that's the amount that we need to be compliant with the town's order or conditions.
So what do you question, where the money's coming from, Kevin? It's gotta come somewhere.
It's got to come from somewhere. I'm not convinced that last one.
That's where the tower project money came from initially, right, for the street towers all
Yes.
around.
Yes.
You wouldn't take money from that account to build for average fire station.
I wouldn't know. But that's why we called the accountant today to find out where he thought it should come from, and that was his answer.
Is there any change from February 6th in that?
Yes, this is all within the past couple of weeks. When Andy found out about the project, I guess when we did our, we put the plans in for the building permit, I guess he never saw it somehow, and the building permit was approved without him looking at it, and then when he became aware of it, he went down and looked at it and said, so I didn't know he didn't look at it. They just issued, I was issued a building permit, and an electrical permit and everything else, but the driveway permit wasn't part of it, and it wasn't checked off on the application that it was required or needed review for it either.
So it's just a matter of where we're gonna get the money from. We take it out of the apparatus equipment or do, put it in the budget? I mean, it's obvious. Gotta come somewhere.
That's what I mean. I can't make a connection in my head between apparatus and equipment and the driveway.
Well, it's part of a project that was put under the the equipment apparatus fund. The $261,000 that we spent on that project came out of the apparatus equipment. This is just if we had known about this ahead of time, it would have been put into that budget for, I imagine it would have been put into that budget for that, and it would have been $265,000 or $266,000. So, you know, if we had known, it would have been part of that. Now this is one line item out of many under this project. You know, if you were to sit there and add up all the invoices, it's just part of that. To me, it seems like it's just part of that project.
I would have been more inclined at that time in that project, was our all-in to do this project. This is, you know, like to your point, what if something washes out while, you know, at a fire station? Do you take it out of the land and building fund on a building built 5 years ago because it was for a building? No, how do you run a business, how do you operate funds?
We don't own land yet. We have a lease.
So much and wants to follow the lease.
There's an expense for the lease of that land?
And,
So as far as format for this, is it the kind of thing that the commission is going to vote and make a recommendation, and the budget committee should vote and make a recommendation or not?
yeah, that would be,
Just kind of split
that
it
would
that
be the
way.
normal process.
Yes, I think that you, commissioners want to take a first swing at it.
Gee, thanks.
Well, it's kind of how we've been doing this budget all along. We get last up. Well,
So we'd have to
second
make a
up,
motion,
voting
yes.
body.
Okay, I'll make a motion, the money comes out of the apparatus and equipment fund.
Oh, yeah. I'll second the truck now.
Then move to second, all those in favor? Okay, there you go, the fire commission is recommended.
Need to change to 5. All right, budget committee, further discussion? You up to speed?
Sequence up. I can read.
All right.
Make a motion that we amend warrant article 5 to include $4,670 for additional site work in the driveway, which is mandated by the town of Northfield, to bring that total to $483,643.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
Second.
Charlie, second. Any further discussion?
What happens if this is looked into further and we're told, oh no, you can't do that? DRA hasn't seen this, right?
And see it till after.
Into next regular,
Huh? No, they'll see it before. This is going to DRA within the next couple of days.
I'm not seeing a difference between February 6th, the same time and 78.
Oh, you did get this.
Yeah, you did.
That's
All
what
ones to increase.
We're looking to lift Article 5 by,
Okay.
what's that?
So identical.
Yeah. Well, for just one voice, I don't agree, the funding sources, at this stage of the game, gets a little, horses out of the barn. It's just me. Any other discussion? I think it's an operating expense. Any further discussion? All those in favor of amending Article 5 as proposed, please signify by saying aye.
Can you reread it? I didn't hear part of that.
All right, Article 5, the thrust is that they're looking to add $4,760 to Article 5 to construct and repair a culvert that's tied to a radio project that was previously funded out of the apparatus and equipment fund, while it's radio tower. So there's a piece of property that Spalding owns, we're leasing for $1, and in order to be compliant with the town of Northfield, was it code enforcement or road agent? Road agent, they want a culvert for the driveway going into that property.
And you're pulling it out of the apparatus and equipment fund?
The proposal was that because the original radio project was funded, and the funding for the radio and the tower was from that funding source. So an accountant was consulted to say that because that project was that funding source, they felt that 4760 was tied to that project.
So the accountant is telling you how to use your money? you need to check with DRA, because that's not
Hey,
what we
exactly.
created the apparatus
I
and
would
equipment
agree.
fund
The
for.
commissioners voted to approve, we're discussing whether to recommend or not recommend, and.
So if we go and vote this, go vote it and DRA shoots it down, we find out at the annual meeting, or we're gonna find out next week?
What's the timeframe? This will go to the RA for the district meeting?
Yes.
So you haven't run this stuff by DRA yet? Any of your warrant articles?
They have gone through,
They
Yes.
have?
yes,
Because anything raised and appropriated has to go through DRA.
that's right, and they've gone through, they've been pre-approved, but they haven't been finalized because the budget isn't finalized.
Right.
That's why we're meeting right now to do that.
Yeah, that's not how we created the apparatus and equipment fund, so,
We don't own the tower, right? We do. We own the tower?
Yes.
What's the other company?
There's 2 tower projects.
In the middle of the vote.
The other one is at the Park Street Common, and that's owned by Wireless, the tower will be owned by Wireless Edge.
We own the funders on this other tower?
This tower on Shed Road, we own, yes.
that's an existing tower?
It's under construction right now.
That was discussed at last year's meeting?
2 years ago.
Oh, yeah. We did the discussion. They voted. Right. Recommended it. So, point of order, we're in the middle of a vote, I got the yeas. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So, recommended by the budget committee.
Thank you. So I guess the next item on the agenda would be a discussion on Article 11
All right.
and the difference between what the Budget Committee would recommend and what the Commissioners have approved so far. And since it's the Commissioners' warrant article that goes before them, I think a small discussion between the Budget Committee and the Commissioners needs to take place so that they can come to common ground.
So I'll open the conversation with Article 11. We went back and forth with this within our meetings that Article 11, the commission has recommended to raise and appropriate through new taxes, a new $100,000 to go into design, engineering, and architectural fees. It was the spirit of, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Budget Committee, it was the spirit of the Budget Committee that we already raised and appropriated, kind of on the fly, last year, $200,000 to go towards architectural design and engineering fees at that time. So $200,000 was taxed. Now the proposal is to add another $100,000 for a total of $300,000 that was taxed. Yet only about $40,000 was spent and $166,000 lapsed into because it was just put into the operating budget and not into a special fund or a non-lapsing fund, it went into the unreserved, undiscovered, unassigned fund balance. So it was the spirit of the Budget Committee that we needed to restore that $166,000 back into the budget because it was already being appropriated. The fact that it lapsed is, because of the circumstances at the district meeting. So that was the thrust of Article 11. We wanted to get that 166 back on the radar, which we had some discussion as to whether that was too much, not enough. How much was it really going to cost for the engineering? I think we felt in the matter of transparency to just get the 166 back in fully to show, hey, here's the rest of your 200,000 taxpayers, and then at the end of the year, after engineering design and all that, if there's anything left, then we can make some decisions, as the voting body can make decisions later about any balance. But we didn't want to just put 100 back in and just put 50, and nobody could really guess. I know what we in Tilton spent for architectural and engineering for a police building. We don't know what the scope of any fire building or buildings would be, but I would personally guess that 166 is going to go almost all. But we thought restore the number fully with full transparency. So that's 11. 12 would then be impacted because the 50,000 that would come from the unassigned fund balance to go towards the landing and building fund, we're not sure that we support violating the policy that the commissioners have with regard to spending from that fund, because we feel if the 166 came out, it would put the fund balance number into a compromise that contradicts the policy. So I think step one was to look at the 166, see where that goes, and then look at the fund balance, and then see if the commissioners felt that pulling 50 out of the residual would make any sense, or certainly would contradict the policy. So those are kind of the, does that pretty much make sense? What you want to do that last week? Okay.
And for what it's worth, I support the budget committee's recommendation for amending 11 to what their recommendation is, and I would not support moving forward with Article 12. In fact, I'd rather withdraw it and have it voted on.
I think at the end of the day, we thought we definitely need to get some money back into architectural and design engineering, although we didn't care for new taxes, we wanted to get it from reserve fund balance. And we also, some of us thought that putting money into the building fund was a good idea, although we, again, weren't sure of how we felt the funding source would be. So we didn't really have much discussion or final say as to where we thought $50,000 should come from. A lot of us remembered when we used to put $100,000 a year into a building fund, so when we got to a day where we had a building to build, there would be less that we would bond, so putting away a little bit every year for a building, we thought was a good idea. We just weren't comfortable with the source, and so I guess it's...
So the last couple of years, we put 100,000
Right.
raised through taxes and just put it in the land and building fund. So this year, if we just do what the budget committee recommends, there'll be no additional funds going into the building fund, unless they amended 12 to say whatever number to raise and appropriate for taxation.
And that's a discussion we didn't have, just to go ahead and tax it, and in the light of adding staff and other things that came across the annual budget, we would have to have a serious chat about that, because there's some payroll being proposed to be added that we had some pretty split decisions on.
I think it's argued that 166
On the line or 12.
should be in the account that was designated for it to begin with, and that we need to be fully transparent with respect to where that money is, how it's going to be used, and how we replenish or generate more money from these funds. But the important thing for us as a budget committee, and I think if I'm speaking I'll speak for myself. I feel that it's extremely important for transparency that $200,000 was raised through taxation for a very specific purpose, and I think it needs to be, that purpose needs to be maintained.
This would, the commissioners, if you guys could make either an amendment to change Article 11 to the budget committee's recommendation, or you could say nothing, it will stay the way it is, and then we'll have the, so.
So they want to raise and appropriate $100,000 in new taxes, but we already raised and appropriated $200,000 last year. No, we didn't change it. We asked them to change it, we came back with no changes, so we failed it. So we stood our ground.
I think that's what the motion, it sounds like it's gonna be, just trying to figure the wording. So your adjustment here of 188,909?
The 188 was a bad number.
Okay.
Chief got us updated numbers, Kathy got us the 166
So
and change, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the exact number, 166 or?
150.45. And when, just, and our discussion has been that last sentence in that article, there's a lot of terminology in the article, in the warrant article, okay? That last sentence is informational only, is what we were told.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what we've
Yes.
been basing all of our discussions on.
So
So we're trying to figure
the
out how to.
two amendments would be the number and to transfer rather than raise and appropriate.
You still have to raise and appropriate, but funded from the unreserved fund.
Right.
All right. Yeah, that's, you guys have the wording correct, but,
Yes,
yep, we're,
I got that down.
The number is 166 something.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, I gave you that at the last,
highlighted.
166,150.45.
yeah, leave the cents off.
The way.
Other way.
Yeah,
Round up.
I think
It rounds down.
It's
Less
either
than
or it's
50, it
no.
rounds down.
I'll make a motion that we raise and appropriate from the unassigned fund balance. Is that what it-
Do you want to amend Article 11?
I want to amend Article 11 to raise and appropriate $166,150.45 from the unassigned fund balance.
No. You raise and appropriate the sum of,
I just said that.
and then, would this amount to come from?
Would this amount come from the unassigned fund balance?
Put the 45 cents in, you know.
Do I have to say where it goes?
It's all right.
Can we just, well, if we have to call for 45 cents, take the collection. We'll have like a secret baffle.
Now,
All right.
that's, he made a motion.
You made a motion.
And then it should be non-lapsing.
It should be non-lapsing.
That's you, I was going to ask.
So the balance of that article, what you just, your motion, the balance of the word in that article will remain unchanged. Is that correct?
Correct. I don't know, are we?
Do we have something, Kat, do you have something that we can read out loud? Yeah.
Give me a minute. To see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of 166,000 blah, blah, blah. Sorry, it's $166,150.45. For the purpose of design, engineering, and architectural fees associated with the construction, addition, and/or renovation of a fire station or fire stations. This special warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation for RSA 32:7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until the building, parentheses, is completed.
Is that legal?
Yep.
It is?
Yep.
No time frame on that?
Yep.
I have never seen it.
So the next
It's
sentence.
an RSA.
It's tied to an event.
Yes, it's tied to an event.
Okay, so here's a stupid little question for you, because this has come up in other communities. Who deems it complete? Who deems the construction complete? You never paint the front door, the money is just gonna be there, if you have extra money, it's just gonna sit there, something? I'm just saying,
I think once you issue a certificate of occupancy, that's.
That's the
complete?
completion, yes.
okay, thank you.
So the remaining 2.5 sentences are deleted.
The one that says funds
We've
appropriated
not
from this
identified a
fund.
funding
Yes.
mechanism
Okay,
You guys will get all new copies.
Do we need from the other side?
Yeah.
so that's the motion. I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and second, all those in favor?
Okay.
Budget committee.
Sounds real.
Same shtick. Get a motion?
So moved.
Is that enough?
So you
Well,
made the
actually,
motion?
your motion would be to recommend
Yes.
Article 11 as amended.
I recommend to, move to recommend Article 11 as amended.
Perfect. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion.
I think we've already had plenty of discussion.
I'm standing
Yeah,
my ground. I
yeah.
want you guys to know my thoughts.
Yep.
We have,
The horse is dead.
Yeah, put it back where it goes. Okay, no, I'll make sure there wasn't anything, you might throw me a curveball someday, so. Yeah. All right, no further discussion. All those in favor of recommending Article 11 for, with tonight's revisions and amendments, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I was.
Aye. All right, so getting our old money back rather than taxing new money. All right, so that's gonna have an impact on your reserve fund balance, which will now be in the approximate ballpark of,
Is that on this form? This-
No,
I've got
Can you give me
something,
another copy?
I've got
No, I don't have-
sort of a worksheet we had from another meeting that you can borrow, or whatever. Kind of shows where we've been and where we're
this
going.
is, shows, this is where we started, and with everything the commissioners recommended, that's what we did. That's, we're gonna end up with that, if we're lucky, because this is unaudited.
So this is your unreserved fund?
Yes. And that would be after, if everything passes the district meeting, that's what we will do.
Now we got another 166, maybe 150, something, any unassigned $5,000?
No, we just took it out, took it back into the operating.
$262. So this number here is not.
227. 227.
It's 428,831 minus 166.
And that's unaudited, right, Chief?
It's unaudited.
So you're,
It should be 262.
262.
That's audited by Mike and Kathy.
and the K auditors.
And
Yeah.
the 16.7 is 400 something.
Oh, yeah, that's 401, class 61. But anyways, back to the commissioners on Article 12, given the proposed new fund balance, what action you still want to hold 50,000 out against your policy, or do you want to table that, or change the taxes, or?
I'd make a motion to withdraw Article 12.
Any from, even, we minute taxation. I have a hard time going against the policy too.
What else is already blown?
No, I know that, but,
Fund was light coming into it.
yeah.
The public last year, spoke their mind and reduced it.
Yeah, every year that policies come up. We throw them away.
Well,
Because the public
The
can.
commissioners have not shown any.
Right.
Yeah.